And Brittany, if you want to record.
All right. Everybody here, or should we?
Yes, sir. I think we do have a quorum of both.
Okay, great.
committees.
Well, great. Well, let's go ahead and get started then. This is the Joint Committee on Real Estate and Recreation this afternoon. Let's get things started off with an invocation from Councilmember Gregg, if you would be so kind.
Yeah, let's just do a brief moment of silence, if that's okay. Thank you.
All right. First item on the agenda is the approval of the May 23rd, 2022 minutes. Do I have a motion?
So move. Second.
Got a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Minutes are approved. The first two items on the agenda are Recreation Committee items. The first of which is discussion of a pool waiver for rental of pool space for private swimming lessons at the W.L. Stevens Aquatic Center. Ms. Yarborough, I see you on the screen. Will you be presenting this one this afternoon?
Sure, and I'm sure legal's on the line and they can answer any questions if the group has any, but thank you, Chairman. So after the last city council meeting, we were bringing everyone up to speed under the Recreation Committee report about the lack of water safety instructors. We had a couple of citizens come forward and ask if we could rent pool space and let individual private lessons be taught. And so we have looked at our pool schedule at W.L. Stevens Pool. And we're looking to add the same things at James Island and also at Herbert Hazel Pools, where we've identified an hour or so in our daily schedule where we have a little bit of time. We can open a couple lanes up for rental and let outside water safety instructors come in and teach private lessons, swim lessons. And so this waiver was crafted by our legal department to allow parents to sign up for that and have some pool time this summer for private swim lessons.
Good deal. Do we have any additional information we want to hear from our legal department, or just want to make sure we have everything from the staff that we need? All right. Well, it comes to the committee for discussion. Does anybody?
Move for approval.
Second.
All right. We got a motion properly seconded. Any discussion?
So could I just ask Laurie what we're charging for the use of the lane?
Yes, sir, Mayor. So we've used it on the same kind of fee structure we set up for any other group that privately rents out pool space. It would be $20 an hour for the use of a lane. And that's the standard rate, like when the scuba groups rent pool space from us or some other group privately rent space.
All right. And is it anticipated that just one person or one child could take a lesson in a lane at a time, or is the thought that there would be more than one?
Well, depending on the pool, there are deep end issues in some of our pools, Mayor, on those lanes that probably would not make a child's swim lesson very conducive to those conditions. But we're having 2 and 3 lanes available at our pool during that hour. So we'll definitely be able to have more than one swim lesson. And a lot of times a swim lesson is only 30 minutes. An individual lesson with the child taking on information for an hour is asking a lot for anyone. So, and like I said, we did identify some time at our James Island Rec Center pool, as well as also Herbert Hazel. So I was thankful that we were able to carve out a little more time within our current pool schedule for that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Laurie, this is Dudley.
Yes, sir.
What about folks who can't afford the $20? Do we have any kind of help program for especially for disadvantaged folks to be able to get swim lessons?
So Councilmember Gregory, that's a great question. These are private swim lessons. So these are, a parent would hire their own swimming instructor and pay them separately. So this is kind of a different setup. We are still working with our summer camps and our neighborhood groups at noon at our pools, doing some free community swim sessions with our kids. And then we will go back into the fall and have swim lessons available at MLK Pool. And any of our kids who are city residents can, at that point, apply for any kind of financial assistance for those lower cost programs.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Councilman Shade.
Yes, sir. Councilmember Appel, I'm not sure if anybody else is having this experience, but your audio seems to be choppy from time to time. And I don't know if I have a bad connection, if anybody else is having that, but
It's his.
yeah, you just may want to, I
It's
don't know.
kind
what
of
the problem-
muffled and breaking up.
Yeah, you just have a bad connection.
Uh-oh. Can y'all hear me a little bit better now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, no.
Still a little scratchy. But beyond that, I just want to build on what Councilmember Gregory just brought up, and I'm glad he mentioned that. So Lori, these parents are able to find private tutors, instructors for their child to take these lessons. I would presume that those folks would be available to be hired out for other instructions by the city as well. Are we missing something here?
The only part you're missing, Councilmember Shade, is that these folks are probably working for a higher hourly rate than what the city of Charleston pays. And so in order to come and teach in our program, it's only going to be a $14.91 an hour position as a water safety instructor. And I suspect that some of these private folks are making north of $25 an hour teaching private lessons. So it's really an economical thing. I have open positions right now for water safety instructors, and I can't find applicants.
And that's because of the pay.
Yes, sir.
So, but we know that these folks are out there. This is not a question of a shortage of instructors. It's a question of a shortage of instructors for pay reasons. And so this is maybe an opportunity. We just need to be focusing on how much we pay these instructors.
I'm sure that city council and the HR committee will be looking at those kinds of issues over the next coming months. But absolutely, there's folks out there that can lifeguard and water safety instruct, but it becomes a matter of how much money can they make and where can they make the most. So
What if we paid the 14, right, an hour, and perhaps charge for the difference? It'd only be a couple of dollars.
those are private individuals, Councilmember Gregory, out there making their own monies. And they have different pools they teach at for different clients. It's not something that we have a lot of here at the city, but a number of private pools, neighborhood pools will allow instructors to rent out space for money making. I mean, it's just kind of a different model than what we have set up right now at the city. Our model has always been on teaching group swim lessons where they were very economical and easy to handle. But because of the way the labor shortage has affected us this year, it's not working. So I think it'll be something we'll be looking at in the future. We were trying to pivot this summer to make something happen for families.
Yeah, I understand, but I'm also trying to talk about a different model.
Absolutely.
And follow up to Councilman Wade's issue and concern. I mean, if the base pay is $14 an hour, and let's say it's 20, okay, for the hour, okay, and we're going to do a group of kids, 50 cents a kid will get you to where they need to be. I mean, is that kind of structure possible?
It is possible. I just think that most of these instructors that are out there doing this have found that they can make more money teaching private lessons to families that have the means to pay than it is in our structured system. The other part of the job at the city of Charleston is when you're not teaching a swim lesson and you're a water safety instructor, you're also in the lifeguard chair because you're qualified to lifeguard as well. So we really require our staff to be able to do a number of things for us, and not everyone out there wants that job.
Well, at least I'd like to try it before we determine that it's not possible, because we're talking about saving lives.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I want to be teaching lessons right now more than anything. And I'm very much looking to the fall when we can get back into the business of teaching classes at a different way. But yes, can we see if any of these folks want to come work with us that way and try to offset costs? I'm happy to try to explore that. I just know that a couple of folks quit from us this year because they wanted to make more money running their own business model, teaching private lessons, and not work for the city of Charleston.
Understandable. And they may only have to deal with one kid as opposed to a group.
That's correct.
Okay.
They also don't have the tax man knocking on every paycheck. They'll have to figure that out at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you.
Well said. Councilman Saccharin, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Russ, Chairman Pell. Lori, I think you may be aware, but this is what we do in the after-school program is we contract with private vendors, and we sign that contract to them to come into our after-school programs, and we take a cut of what they're doing. These are private vendors, so these folks are making a substantial profit on the use of our facilities. So what I'm hearing is we are not charging private vendors to come use our pools. Is that what we're talking about today?
No, sir. There'll be a rental cost of $20 to come in and rent the space to do it. We will not be, according to this particular waiver, though, we'll not be taking a cut of anything they charge the family. And this was something that we put in place rather quickly here as the summer has started to unfold. I really don't know what each family is going to be paying each of the instructors.
Okay. Just to follow up to that, and I think the Councilman Gregory was maybe alluding to this, is to rethink our relationship with these vendors. If we're allowing them to use the facility at a reduced rate, whether it's $20 or what have you, what we do is try to leverage that relationship with them and then ask them to offer free or even further reduced childcare services, whether it's swimming, coding, robotics, whatever have you, at another Title I school to offer those services for free, because they are working with us.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
not something we could entertain in the future? I'm not talking about this summer, but maybe.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely. I think it's one of the models we could do. We do that right now with independent instructors for other things. A karate instructor or a yoga instructor might make an 80-20 split, but they agree to also teach a free youth program at one of our community centers downtown for us. So we do those kinds of things as well. In this particular relationship, though, the city's not going to have the relationship with the private instructor for this summer. We're going to have a relationship with the parent. The parent's the one that's going to reserve and pay for the lane usage for the swim lesson. So whatever relationship between the parent, the child, and the independent, and that teacher, that's their own business. They're going to pay the city $20 to rent that space.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Gregory.
No, I see that Councilman Bowden's hand up, so I'll go after him. He hasn't spoken yet.
Sure, Councilman Bowden.
Looks like it's tough to see us on the screen. So one way to get at what I think everybody seems to want to get at here is can we just waive that rental fee if the parent is low income?
If it's a city resident and they can show financial need, I think we could certainly look at reducing that cost. They're still going to be paying their own teacher, though. I'm not going to provide the teacher. The city's not providing the teacher. So I guess you look at it, if you've got the ability to pay for that teacher for a private lesson for your child, then the city's space is going to be made available to you. But I've had a couple of folks reach out. I think Councilmember Pell, you had a constituent copy you on an email as well, upset because we weren't able to do swim lessons and they wanted to have some space in our pool. So that was what the mayor had really had us working on, was trying to find some time in our public pools that we already had enough space available. We could carve that out for them to rent that area.
All right, Councilman Gregory.
Yeah, Laurie, but the person who's making all the money, okay, on this is the instructor. I mean, the instructor, while the parents are renting our facility for $20, okay,
Yes,
that's
sir.
the cost that they have to bear. But in addition to that, they have to also pay the hourly rate for the instructor. So to me, it looks like the person who's really making out in terms of dollar wise is the instructor. I mean, they're using a state-of-the-art facility, but for that facility, they wouldn't have any work. I mean, there's no way for, just going back to trying to work something out in the future, because I just think that there is a way that we may be able to leverage.
I absolutely agree with you on that. I think there's a way in the future to do this completely differently. I think this was a way that we were trying to take advantage of any part of our schedule where we had a few hours that were less busy than others and allow this to occur. But yeah, it is running a business in a city pool, and that's why we passed it on as a rental. The city's also not going to get into the checking of the certification or anything like that of these instructors. That's up between the family and that instructor to do those kinds of things.
But we assume the liability if something happens, don't we?
No, there's going to be, that's what this is a waiver of that responsibility. I mean, obviously, if something were done and it was done negligently, yes, we would assume it. But I'm talking about just in a normal day of swimming and something were to occur. This is what that waiver is in place for, is that they're going to assume the responsibility of that program and that child in our pool. We'll still have lifeguards. And again, I'm not sure where legal is. They were the ones that crafted the waiver for us. So I don't know if Julia Copeland's on the line or.
Well, I'd hate to see that liability tested. Okay.
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Chairman, I think council members Waring and then council member Shade have their hands up.
Councilmember Waring.
I still want to speak, but I'm going to defer to Councilman Shea because I think he's following up on a pretty good point he started with. Go ahead.
Lori, I think that what you're hearing is a bunch of council members who are engaged in this question, in this issue of safety for our citizens. And I think you've created a little bit of a crack of an opportunity. And so what I'm just want to encourage you to do, if you can, and I know time is short, but the summer just got cranked out. And I don't want to wait until next year if there's a way for us to sort of to figure out any kind of, I hate to say scheme, but any type of plan that we can come up with. We're not talking about a whole lot of money if we have to subsidize using these private instructors. And to the points that I think I heard from my colleagues, we've got a little bit of a carrot and a stick opportunity here to provide the space, to provide the pool. If we can provide 2 lanes as opposed to 1, or half the pool as opposed to the full pool, I'm just asking you and trying to encourage you, because I know how passionate you are about this. And because you are one of the strong advocates for our youth in the community. But if there is a way to sort of tap into our creative juices to see if there's things that we can do to now this summer of tapping into those private instructors who want more money, but they want to use our pool, even if we just provide 50% of what we normally do, that's 50% more than where we are right now. So I would just ask you to explore what we can do to tap into these private instructors. We can find the money. I'm sure there's something we can find the money for to do to subsidize this, pay them the more money, induce them with the use of the pool, whatever you think is appropriate. I'm just trying to put us back in your lap a little bit to see I think we're giving you the blessing. Please go out and try to find out something that's creative to salvage the summer with this instruction, because it's just too important. This is just, we're talking about young children drowning. And Paul Stoney, who's a member of our Rotary Club, was talking about the YMCA. And, this is the one thing that he said, this is a preventable death. If we can just teach one child I think we all feel a little bit better that we know we maybe have saved at least one child's life from an accidental swimming, drowning. So I just want to encourage you the best I can to see what else we can do for the rest of the summer.
And
Thank you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that nod of encouragement and asking me to go ahead and try to put some other options in place like that. Thank you. I will definitely do that.
Thank you, Lori.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with all these council members. I think what we need to do is give you some money so you can say, I've got this money to go out and pay somebody $25, $30 an hour. When you talk about the number of hours over what, 10 weeks summer, we're not talking about a whole lot of money. And Councilman Shade is right. Working within the budget that you had, I understand how you came up with the alternatives that you did, but I think you need help from us, obviously, and the mayor. It's a money question. The private teacher can't teach if they don't have a pool to teach in. Okay, that's our leverage. So this piece about let's get some more money so we can pay the instructor more. But if they're going to use our pool, they got to be able to do feather in some of those kids who parents can't pay. Okay, so I think with our help, I think you can come up with something this summer. And I think before I get to council meeting, I think I'll have the name of the person of an instructor that Barbara Dilligard wrote for a grant for the school system to help. One of the aspects of that was to help low-income kids learn how to swim, and they've got a swim instructor. So I think I need to match them up with you, and maybe we can get a pool instructor in there with a little bit of money. Again, you talk about, I don't know, $30 an hour over a 10-week period of time, and I don't know how many hours. Average class lasts how long, Lori?
Normally they're 2-week sessions, council member, and they're 4 times a week. That's the kind of the schedule the city's always gone on. So I guess it just depends on the private instructor portion, but 2 weeks is a lot of time for one child to learn one-on-one lessons.
So, but I mean, a lesson is what, an hour?
30 minutes or an hour, depending on the child. Yes, sir.
So let's just say an hour. I mean, we can do the quick math on that right now at $30 an hour. We're not talking about, we don't have to tilt the budget to get that one, get you some money to get that done.
Yes.
All right. So, and I'll get you that name with the lady.
Please do, Councilmember Waring.
From Ms. Dilligard with the grant she got and the swimming.
Thank you.
I'll shut up after this one. What about, suppose somebody wants to buy 5 hours. Okay. Suppose I want to donate $100, okay, for 5 hours for our pool, right?
Yes, sir.
Is there any way that we can leverage that kind of commitment?
I absolutely think we can. I mean, we built a wonderful sponsorship program for our youth sports.
Yes.
That allow our kids that live in public housing and some other kids that go to Title I schools to play for free. I think we could definitely build that because we've got a number of adult swimmers in our community that are doctors and lawyers and all kind of things like that. They would love to help a child learn to swim. And I think we could build a program like that where you could adopt a child for the summer or help a child swim for the summer and turn those donations into pool time, pool hours, and a sponsorship opportunity. I definitely think we could do that.
I'm committed.
Okay.
Me too.
Me too.
All right. I've got my first $300 right there then. That's awesome.
Make it 4.
Thank you, Councilmember Rappel.
Do I hear 5? 5.
Thank you, Councilmember Boyd.
You got 6. You got 6.
We gotta get together more and talk about how to make these kind of interesting things happen. I think this is the model, and this is the future of these types of collaborations, because it's just going to be very hard long term for the government to be keeping up with the private sector when it comes to paying folks, and that goes beyond just the recreation department, as we all know. And I think that clever public-private partnerships are the model moving forward. And as Councilmember Waring mentioned, we've got the facilities, we've got the stuff that people need. It's just how can we leverage that with, private donations and nonprofits and things of that nature to provide services. I think the government providing all the services, soup to nuts is maybe an ideal approach. Maybe it worked in the past, but I just think moving forward, we're going to have to get more creative and more diverse when it comes to those issues. The only thing I would say on this issue has nothing to do with the logistics of teachers and expenses and things of that nature, but let's make sure that whoever is a private instructor teaching in a city pool, not just contractually agree to indemnify the city, God forbid something happens to a swimmer, but actually provides proof of insurance with the city of Charleston named as an additional named insured, because I can promise you, if God forbid something happens, the city of Charleston is the second defendant, or maybe the first defendant in that lawsuit. And I think it's not enough just for them to contractually agree to it. We need to make sure if we get sued, we can turn that off onto the insurance company that is agreed for the city by the private swim instructor. So just some legal comments for what it's worth. And with that said, does anybody have any other discussion on this item?
Councilmember Parker, I think, just had her hand up, and I did just want to remind everyone, we have to start Ways and Means at 4 today.
Right. And I got to get in a car and drive downtown at some point. So we pick it up. Councilmember Parker, did you want to make a comment?
And you're on mute, Councilmember.
I'm not even sure I see her. Is she in?
She's there, but she's on mute.
Oh, I see
I'm
her.
sorry, y'all. I'm in a meeting, but no, it was just for the $100. I said I was in 2.
Nice.
Thank you.
We're raising. Let's all keep that spirit when it's time to balance the real budget.
Yeah,
we'll
exactly.
pass around the.
Exactly.
I don't go to church that often, but I hear there's a collection plate that's passed around. We can do that.
Yes.
Us Catholics would
And
teach you how
just-
to do that, Mr.
And
Councilmember
thank you all. I mean, Lori, thanks for spending the time on this. I mean, I know it takes a lot of extra effort, but I want to thank you all too. When I brought it up at the last council meeting, I didn't expect anything to really happen this summer, but I'm just glad that, that we may be able to pull something together for some of these kids in the city of Charleston this summer. So thanks, everyone.
Good deal. Well, I think this was just a discussion item, so I don't believe we will vote on item A. And if it's everybody's pleasure, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item. All right, hearing no objection. Next item on the agenda is consideration of a rental agreement to rent portions of the Daniel Island Rec Center in the amount of $33,000 a year to the Point Hope Presbyterian Church for Sunday services and other special events. Who from our staff is going to elucidate this item?
I'm happy to be here for this one too. I think legal should definitely be on the line on this one as well. But we were approached by the folks at Point Hope Presbyterian. They came into Charleston prior to COVID and are represented by Reverend Rob Hamby. I believe he is on this call as well, but he has reached out and talked to Councilmember Gregg, as this is in his district. And they are looking to start renting the multi-purpose space inside the Daniel Island Rec Center from 8:30 to 12:30 on Sundays for a service. And during that time, they will cover all the cost of the building rental and it being open, and the staff that will need to open it, as well as leaving a damage deposit and some replacement fees to help us replace chairs and tables that we know we'll need to replace with some more use like that. But the really great thing, other than it being a great opportunity for folks that maybe don't know about the Daniel Island Rec Center to learn about it by coming there, but they're also have agreed to let people come in and use the gymnasium while church is going on. So it will allow us to actually be open on Daniel Island 4 additional hours a week that we have not been paid to be open for, and allow. So starting in July, that would allow folks on Daniel Island to come in and use the rec center during the time they're using it for church.
Very good. Very good. Thank you, Lori. Does anybody have a motion or any
So
question?
moved.
Move for approval.
All right, got a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion?
Yeah, what was that? What was that fee again, Laurie?
So Councilmember Gregory, it's a rental fee of $33,000 for the entire year, and they pay half at one time and half at another. Additionally, they'll have a damage deposit of $5,000, and they've agreed to give us up to $2,000 to replace tables and chairs that would be used for their setup services in the multi-purpose room over the course of the year. So,
And is this for a set period of time? Is it going to
It
be a
is.
year, 2 years, 3 years?
Yes, sir. That's a great question. It's a 1 year, it's a 1 year rental agreement. And it is no more time than that to make sure that this situation is working for both entities. We haven't ever rented to a church like this. And so it'll be a little bit different for us. I know one of our senior centers has done this before, but it is a 1 year, and it would be open to looking at it for another year. But they do own property out in Kanehoy Peninsula with every intention of building their own bricks and mortar facility. This would be a shorter term. They're currently using space provided by the Catholic Church on Sunday afternoons. So.
All right, good stuff. Councilmember Gregg.
I would just like to note, I did meet with Pastor Rob Hamby with the church last week. So excited to have this congregation out on Daniel Island. He's a great member of the community. This is going to be a great addition to our community out here. So really glad they're going to be able to start worshiping out here on Daniel Island.
Good deal. Thank you, Councilmember Gregg. Any other discussion?
Ready for the question?
Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none. The ayes have it. Next item on the agenda, and that concludes.
Mr. Chairman, could I just make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
Miss Laurie, that, and ask a question. The revenue from this rental is new income, right? And we don't have any, they're paying all expenses, correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. Could I just recommend, not to belabor the swim lesson conversation, but that you come up with the budget that you need extra to get us back in swim lesson business and use the revenue from this rental, which we did not budget, and we could use the money for that?
I'll be happy to talk to my friends down in finance to figure out how that works, Mayor. But
Okay.
but yes, it certainly seems like some new additional funds coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Good deal. Good thinking there. All right. Next item on the agenda is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to execute a deed. And this is regarding the quitclaim deed that had been discussed a few meetings ago regarding the Children's Museum of Charleston. So I think everybody on the call is familiar with this. Do we have somebody from our staff that is going to give us a little bit more insight into this matter?
Is this a real estate issue?
It is. I believe we've reached the beginning of our real estate only agenda. So those
See you later.
sounds good.
Bye-bye.
Y'all, it's like the closing of a bar. Y'all don't have to go home, but it's the opposite. You can stay here if you want.
See y'all in a while. Bye.
Good deal. All right. I see Ms. Copeland is at the microphone. Take it away.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman. So I'll be super brief. I think this was in front of you in February or January. The members of the board of the Children's Museum approached the city about the potential for the city quit claiming the museum property to the board in an effort to use that building as collateral to take out a loan to perform a significant amount of improvements to the building to improve the museum. During that committee meeting, I believe there was some pretty specific instruction to the board members to meet with them and come back with some additional information regarding the instructions from their bank with regard to the lending requirements. And Mark Murphy and Edward Rawl are both on this call to address those concerns. And I believe they are both on. Is that correct, Jennifer?
Yes, they are.
Take it away, gentlemen.
Yeah, this is Mark. I'll start and Edward, ask you to provide color. But we were in front of you 2 short months ago, I think, and left that meeting after some discussion with some action items for the board, the Children's Museum Board. Those action items were to get a breakdown of what we're calling kind of gate traffic, which is what demographics are the museum really supporting. The second item was some more supporting justification on the bank's position on lending to ensure that if this deed was given to the museum, that we could in fact finance through a construction loan, the construction of our project and the movement of the entrance, which is really how this all started. And then the third piece is a subdivision, a plat subdivision proposal survey that we can submit to Ms. Copeland and her team. Additionally, Edward and I both met with several council members and reached out to others providing some of this data. I've provided that data to Ms. Copeland. I believe she provided it to the council. So unless there's questions on that, I'll pause and see if there's specific questions or any of those documents you'd like me to walk through. Before I do that, Edward, over to you. Anything to add?
No, thanks. I think, Mark, we're good to go. And if anybody has any questions, we'll do our best to address them.
That sounds good. Does anybody from the committee have any questions for any of the folks with the museum? Councilmember Gregg.
So, I mean, all I saw in the packet this week was just the quitclaim deed. I haven't seen any of the information that the folks from the Children's Museum are discussing. So it's kind of hard for me to make a decision on this, given that we don't have the supporting documentation. Is there a presentation that they were going to be giving us, or is it just the quitclaim deed?
Julia, I think she's going up to the mic.
So there's discussion of traffic and demographics and quite a bit of information there that we discussed, but.
So Councilman Gregg, if you check I did send this to your city email, so maybe you didn't get this yesterday.
Okay.
Information on the banks. Yeah, the data analysis on gate traffic as well as the Service First letter.
Gotcha. Okay, I thought it was in the pack.
I can send that to a different email if you need me to.
Nope, I'm
Okay.
good.
Got it. Any other comments, questions from council members, committee members? Councilman Shade.
Not for Mr. Murphy or Mr. Wall. I met with them and they answered a lot of my questions that I had concerning this. One of my concerns was what they had brought up was who it was servicing. The second question, and Julia, I hate to call you back after the microphone, but maybe you could just address something for me, please. Ms. Copeland? No.
Sorry, I'm here.
So one of the questions that another councilman had brought up was if we quit claim this deed and they take out a loan, is the city indemnified in the event that the loan is defaulted on?
I mean, we could certainly address that in a separate agreement with the museum. Right now, there's a right. What we have discussed so far is if there's a quit claim, there would be a right of reverter.
Correct.
So if they took out a loan and then they moved the museum off the peninsula, it would automatically revert to the city. But that instance, it would revert to the city with the mortgage attached to it, and that it would be the city's responsibility.
So how do we protect ourselves from having to pick up a tab?
I mean, I'm sure we could address it in a separate agreement with the Children's Museum. We would have to memorialize it in some form of writing.
Do we need to do that before we authorize the transfer?
We could authorize, right now, the way we have it drafted is authorizing the mayor to execute in a form approved by legal. So we haven't drafted any kind of documents to date. So we could certainly package that all together.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Shade. Councilman Waring.
Can you anybody tell me the value of this building? Anybody had it appraised? So we'll know the value of the asset for those who will vote to give it away. I'm not gonna vote to give it away, but have we even had an appraisal done on this property?
Not recently, Councilman Waring. We can certainly have, Mayor, do you know something I don't know?
One done.
Okay. We can certainly find out how much we have it insured for. I can get that answer to you quickly.
No, I meant the market value.
Oh, market
Actually,
rate.
market value of the property and the building. We're gonna give something away, and we hadn't even found out what it's worth. I said I would reserve my comments for city council meeting, but there are a number of nonprofits that lease city property for $1 a year. This issue is not one of the city charging too much rent or whatever on this building. We lease it to the museum for $1 a year. This is an issue of the ability to raise money for children. It's funny, for children to take swim lessons, we jump to the fore. And I believe, frankly, and this is, you might want to pull up your shoes off the floor because it's going to seem like I'm hitting at you personally, but the city has a responsibility to help fix that building up. And I certainly would be willing to vote to find dollars to go towards that renovation or addition or whatever you all doing. But so does the board of the Children's Museum. I'm just curious how much money, because we had the same similar talk 2-3 months ago. How much money has the Children's Museum raised from when this initially came up on the agenda until today? Can any of you gentlemen answer that? Mr. Murphy, can you answer that? Or Mr. Wall?
From 2 months ago?
2 months ago,
Councilmember?
3 months ago? Yes.
I cannot answer that with confidence. I mean, it's certainly a number that's easily attainable through the development committee and development staff very quickly after this meeting.
The amount of money y'all need is what? To do what you want done?
The operating estimate we are working with to complete what we would call kind of phase 1 and 2 of the project, which is the exterior renovations, the movement of the entrance from the promenade area to facilitate that project additionally for the city, move that around and make some, the improvements that were approved by the bar. The operating budget we're working with is $4 million.
Okay. And how much money y'all raised so far towards that? Forget about the last 60 days. How much money have y'all raised towards the 4 million?
Yeah, approximately $1.5 million. That some of that was shifted into operating expenses to get us through pandemic, but generally $1.5 million.
So you all need about 2.5 million. I'm asking.
Yeah, I think if we're dealing with round numbers, that gets us into the area where we could support the project, and the organization is healthy in our admissions and has already always operated profitably. So I think the 2.5 to 3 million range, given our current positioning coming out of pandemic, would go a long way towards that project.
You see, y'all's problem is really a fundraising problem. Okay, twofold. The city needs to come in with some money because it's the city's building. And the board and the stakeholders of the museum needs to go out and raise money. And that sounds awfully big-headed, but I can tell you that's been done all over this city. The International African American Museum is probably a quintessential example of that. Okay, to raise money for America's original sin, slavery. Over $100 million has been raised on that. And you know what? The city of Charleston owns that building. Doesn't have a dime worth of debt. The public-private partnership between the Gilliard. There's no proposal to give the International African American Museum to the nonprofit that runs it. There is no proposal to give the Gilliard Performing Arts Center and its salons to the nonprofit that runs it, the Gilliard Management Corporation. That's an asset of the city. The city helps to fund both of those entities, and it should help to fund the Children's Museum. When the CVB wanted to move into the Visitors Reception Center, they came up with some money. The city came up with some money. They had to get a loan. They do not own the building. When the D. Norton Center, which is down on King Street, right by Dart Hall Library, they literally gutted the building. City leases them the building for $1 a year. And I think they needed $3 million to do what they done. Now that's pre-COVID prices. They went to Wachovia and got the money. Now they have I think they have a 30-year lease at $1 a year. Not Wachovia, I'm sorry, Wells Fargo, and got the money. So this Cliff Note version of getting the assets that belong to the taxpayers to be given to a nonprofit that's subject to change over from year over year. And then we'd be responsible for the debt that we really don't have the specifics on. We don't have the specifics on the debt, on the $4 million that's going to be spent. We have broad conversations, last meeting and this meeting. So I'm saying, as a city councilman, do I need to step up and help raise money for the Children's Museum? I'm willing to do that, okay? And I've done that for other entities. The mayor can speak for himself, but if I were to guess at it, I think he would be willing to do the same. Certainly other council members here. To appropriate city dollars, the ability is there to do that. To appropriate $4 million to help you all, no. But to get you a substantial away, I don't know the numbers. I don't know how much money we gave to the CVB. But again, we were reinvesting into a city asset that's owned by the taxpayers. We took taxpayers' dollars and invested in a taxpayers' property asset. If this 10 years from now, if somehow the Children's Museum board were to get upset and want to sell this property and move to Mount Pleasant, that would look like a pretty bad deal for anybody that represented the interests of others. And that's what we do. We represent the interests of other people, the taxpayers. So I was just really surprised that in less than 60 days, we have a quitclaim deed back in front of us that we saw 60 days ago. I don't know if there's been any effort in front of the city to say we can appropriate, I don't know, $1 million towards your needs, leaving the balance to be raised by stakeholders of the museum with help, with the power of the city being behind trying to raise those dollars. So anyway, I hear your proposal, but can you imagine if the Wine and Food Festival had a building that the city had given them, the way they left us and went up to North Charleston after, I don't know, a decade of support. People go and come, attitudes change, but the city, the equity that's in city taxpayers owned property just shouldn't be given away. And that's what's being requested here. So I've had my say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Waring. Does anybody else from the committee want to have a comment on this or ask any questions of either our staff or the museum leadership? Councilman Shade.
Yeah, and Councilman Waring, thanks for your insight on all that. And you and I have talked about this before, and appreciate your inside the circle kind of view on this. Should we defer this to give the board members an opportunity to come back to us with a proposal as whether or not that is feasible? If we match what they raise, for instance, and they come up with 1.5 and we can raise 1.5, that's, I think, the whole idea behind it. My understanding was this is a great program that we have at the Children's Museum. They service so many of our citizens, not just within the city of Charleston, but outside the city of Charleston as well. The idea is just to make this thing successful.
Right.
And I don't want to get in the way of them being successful. I want to help them what we can. But if that's the way to make this work, it's for us to partner with them. I don't know if they're willing to do that or not, if they're willing to see if that's explore that. I'm asking that to Mark and Edward now. Is that something that some y'all would consider and take that into light?
Yeah, Councilman, this is Mark, and I appreciate the comment and the feedback. And certainly, we never sought out to be owners of this building. We got to this place as a path to try to be successful and really create more capacity and a better environment for our constituents, the children of the city. So I think the directions are aligned. You know, we're trying to move something forward for a really important group. If the ask, council member, is, you know, could we come back with a tangible proposal for, you know, some mix of hard dollars and city support, liking to the African American Museum, to help us get to a fundraising goal, again, a tangible fundraising goal. Edward, I speak, I think, probably for the board. Yes. You know, I think our objective is getting this project done, and getting it done, you know, over the next kind of 12 to 18 months to service the growing community. I think we would explore any path to get that done. So if I'm getting the ask right, council member, I think the answer is yes.
We want y'all to be successful. And if there's a way to help fund this, that avoids you guys having to obtain a mortgage and service a mortgage. And everybody walks away feeling that we've contributed equally to this project. So if y'all are willing to do that, I'll move to defer this. Let us come back and work together on it. And remember, one thing I mentioned to you guys is that perhaps you should expand your board to put a couple of council members on there. So I would just renew that. We got some very energetic young parents on this council. Councilmember Appel, Councilmember Parker, Councilmember Bowden, Councilmember Gregg. I don't leave anybody out, but we've got some council members who have got a vested interest in this thing, who their children would be served or have been served by this, and I think they would show an interest in wanting to serve on your all's board as well. So,
absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to move to defer with that specific. I see the mayor's got his hand up, so I'll defer my deferment to I hear from the mayor.
Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Mark, thank you for your comment and willingness that you just stated. And I think that would be a wise path to pursue. And I did want to add a little perspective to all this. And Councilmember Waring is right. Most of the deals that the city has done with nonprofits and museums have been along the lines of, as he described, where the city continues to own the property for a marginal lease and in fact helps to improve the building. And I think maybe where this long ago got off on a different tack was when the lease was first generated back in the 90s. I was involved as a staff member. You know, the museum, the Children's Museum, assumed full responsibility for the building, and the city just offered the property. And so, but I do understand that, you know, that was 25 years ago, and things have changed, and the building needs more than a little TLC. It needs some major renovations to serve our children of our community. And I saw that chart where the kids are coming from, and really it's all over the city, and then some visitors as well. So it's really a community-wide asset for our city and deserves our support. I did want to point out that, and this was before I became mayor, the city did do a similar deed transfer with the School of the Building Arts. And so I pointed that out because that question about, well, gee, what happens if they were to default and the debt that might incur back to the city if we wanted to keep the property. Of course, you could just let it go into foreclosure, I guess. But we wouldn't want to do that with this property long term. That's clear. And what's happened over the last since I've been mayor is as the School of the Building Arts has had to come back to the city, I think on 3 different occasions, and ask for to raise the debt ceiling on what they could borrow on the property. And it's just become very complicated. So I do think the wise thing for us to do is to work this out, make a commitment from the city to assist you with the building costs, and let's come up with a number that we can all work with, give you as long as you want, practically forever on the lease, but still maintain that model that Councilmember Waring mentioned. I think long-term for both of us, it will make the best sense.
Thank you, Mayor.
I now
Appreciate
move
that.
to defer, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Thank you. Councilman Waring.
I do have some discussion. Let me, Mr. Murphy and Mr. Rawl, now you all on the hot seat, and I know it's not y'all's fault. I really believe you all came to us, if I remember, a couple of months ago, was because the bankers put you all in this position. The bankers wanted title versus, even though you have a long-term lease and not wanting to make the loan that way. And the CVB was able to get a loan. Obviously, CVB is a much larger budget and everything, but D. Norton was able to get a loan with a $30 a year lease. I think that's the question of the bankers. And to the mayor's point, with the city's participation, I just really think we need to find out the bankers. I happen to be on Wells Fargo's board when they approved the loan for D. Norton Center. So I know there are bankers out there that would do it. Now, I don't know whether the bank that you all are talking about is willing to do it, but that's one good thing about competition in America. So with cities' involvement, which reduces the request of the loan, it makes it even, I think, more feasible to get a deal that's bankable, a combination between city fundraising, and if fundraising is successful, maybe you don't even need a loan. If you did need a loan, it would be much smaller than whatever's anticipated coming into this meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well said, Councilman Waring. And I just want to thank Mark and Edward for meeting with me in my office and explaining more about the museum and what their goals are. And I think there's a way to get there. I think let's all make a pledge on this Zoom call to collaborate, communicate, work together. There's a lot of muscle memory here on very similar public-private deals, as Councilman Waring has alluded to. And I mean, he's just such a great resource when it comes to this. So I really encourage y'all to get together, talk through some of these issues, and we can get there. I mean, if we can do $100 million for the International African American Museum, this is very achievable. It's very achievable. We just got to hit a single here, and I think we can do it. So we got a motion to defer on the floor with some clear guidance to our colleagues here. Any further discussion?
I just want them to know I'm willing to meet with them. I'm willing to come to the museum, meet with the committee, whoever your team is together. And I know I'm not alone in this. So
we'll take you up on that. Thank you.
That's right. This meeting is being recorded. It's on YouTube, so it is. You can take that to the bank. Good deal. All in favor of the deferral motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Since we've got Ways and Means coming up at 4, we are needing to kind of move along here. I propose maybe taking items D and E together.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All right,
Second.
we got a motion on the floor, approved, seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. The motion passes to take items D and E together. This all involves Hampstead Square.
Move for approval.
Second. I'll second.
We got a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all signify approval by saying aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. Now we're moving. Item F. This is the Greenway lease between City of Charleston and Charleston Water System. Julia, did you want to maybe make a couple remarks about this, just to explain kind of what this is and how it relates to the lease that we had previously looked at?
Sure. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Okay. We already have a lease with the Greenway or with CWS for the Greenway and the use as a park space and recreational space. This is an amendment to the lease, and two of the big perks that I would like to point out that we did get through our negotiations with CWS was a 6,000 square foot community garden space, which will be located in the Burnsdown section of the Greenway, as well as a provision in here that allows any future improvements to be negotiated with CWS, which I think is a good win for us, because before that, everything was cemented and in stone and unmovable. So this is a good thing for us.
Good deal. Thank you, Ms. Copeland. Do I hear a motion to get this one on the floor?
Oh, so move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Councilman Waring.
Well, I want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, for your involvement with getting this lease pushed through. I want to thank the mayor, obviously being on CWS board, and the team over at CWS and our legal people. So and I want to thank, believe it or not, I want to thank the Post Courier for the editorial they had on the Greenway. Wonderful editorial that they had in the Greenway, and your comments. So looks like we got good momentum moving on this thing, and let's make it happen, as you like to say.
Thank you very much, Councilman Waring. Any other discussion before I maybe give a few brief remarks on this?
Brief.
That's it. Brief is the order of the day. Just wanted to thank everybody over at CWS, especially Councilman Waring and the mayor, of course, as our liaisons with the city. The Greenway is the main sewer utility infrastructure serving West Ashley and Johns Island. I didn't know about the Johns Island piece until recently. And, it's a very important job and a very important role that the Greenway serves. And so there's sometimes a little bit of a conflict between the utility function of the Greenway and the park function of the Greenway. But by working together and collaborating between the city and CWS, we can strike the right balance over time. And just to be clear to anybody that's watching, this lease does not approve any specific projects in any specific locations. This is just a framework for us to then begin the process of coming up with ideas and greenlighting them and working with neighborhoods and getting the support and feedback from the stakeholders, all following the 2019 Greenway Master Plan, which is sort of the roadmap here. And as we get the Ashley River Bridge, Bike Ped Bridge online in the coming years, it's going to be all the more important for the Greenway to be providing the sort of level of service that we want for our communities, not just for West Ashley, but folks downtown that are going to be, crisscrossing back and forth. And of course, folks over in the communities that are served by the bikeway. I mean, everything's going to be connected eventually. And that's why it's so important to have this lease in place as a framework as we begin to move forward in the coming years. So just want to thank everybody involved, our city's legal department, our city staff, Jason Kronsberg, everybody for doing this. And we got a little bit of funding in the tank. We're working on some signage, some very basic sort of improvements on the Greenway, and I look forward to making these things happen in the coming years. So thanks again to everybody for making this happen. We've got a motion and a second on the floor.
Mr. Chairman, the mayor has his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not see that. Mr. Mayor, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would also like to thank our colleagues over at CWS, and not to be contrary with you, Mr. Chairman, but there is one specific thing in the lease amendment that is specific to location, and that's a community garden. And I forget exactly where it is, but it is specified in the amendment. It is a framework, as you mentioned, but it also does specify that community garden location.
That's correct. And we'll certainly go to the neighborhoods, in that area and talk through these proposals and see if it's something that the neighborhood wants. And we'll begin those discussions at the appropriate time. But I just wanted to let it be known that it's not like we're approving any specific projects with this vote right now. We're just simply putting a framework in place through the lease amendment. Does anybody else have any comments or questions as we vote? All right. All in favor of the lease as amended between City of Charleston and CWS, please signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. The next item on the agenda is an update on the Sumar Street MOU. Is this a, who has the pleasure of giving this presentation?
That's going to be me, Chairman Appel, Eric Pullman, West Ashley Coordinator for City of Charleston.
Right.
This is a very fast update for you. You can go on to the next slide already. So this is just to remind and orient some of the council members who are not involved in this daily. So this is the location that we're going to be talking about, Sumar Street parcel. This was brought to you, I think, back in the first meeting of May, where we provide a broad overview. Next slide, please. And so since June 17th, that was the last update that was provided to you guys. It did receive conceptual approval at the design review board. We also received comments from our internal city review committee. And then through the month of June, myself and the design team have met and coordinated regarding the modifications and anything else that's going to have to occur in order to comply with those comments. We also had our geotechnical survey was completed. And Leolio is making additional progress on the exterior per comments. Go on to the next slide, please. The next step, so in the coming month to 2 months, what we're going to be looking at is the subsurface parking. Part of this is looking at how do we do an underground parking area as part of this redevelopment. With that, Leolio and Landmark are studying the possibility of the underground parking area. In addition, it would have a overflow component for stormwater as well. So not meeting the city stormwater requirements with the parking deck, but providing additional storage capacity during named storms and other large predictable events. And then we're also looking at how to coordinate the efficiency of the structure. As we move through that one, they submitted for our technical review committee last week or the week before, and they will have their review on August 4th. Also with that, city staff, corporate counsel, and Landmark with their legal team continue to refine the draft development agreement as well as the draft ground lease. So we're getting ever so closer to those. And then some of the outstanding MOU elements that we will still be going for is to finalize a guaranteed max price, to finish out the development agreement. In order to finish that, though, we do need to have TRC preliminary completed for cost estimates. We also need to have those efficiencies completed for the subsurface and surface parking. And also we're still honing in on the entry feature at the intersection of Sam Rittenberg and Old Town Road. So that's what we will be chewing away at for the next month. And that is the update.
Good deal. Thank you, Mr. Pullman. Councilman Shade.
Yes, sir. I see our partners are in the council chamber rooms from Landmark, and I just want to make sure they have an opportunity to add anything that Eric has brought up.
He's giving me a thumbs up that was good.
Okay. Eric, thank you for the presentation. And I've been in contact with the mayor's office and with Eric and with our partners, particularly with Dino's, to get these updates on what's going on. So we're moving in the right direction with this. We're making wonderful progress. I appreciate the work that we've got so far. As Eric mentioned, we got the DRB conceptual approval last month. And so we're heading down this path. So thank you, Eric, and our partners. I can't see y'all set very faintly, Landmark partners, but thank you all for being there this afternoon to make yourselves available.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Any other items, discussion items, comments regarding Sumar Street? All right, hearing none, let's go ahead and move to item H. This is the annexation portion of the program. Got a motion on the floor to approve. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, got a motion on the floor and a second. Anybody from the staff want to briefly touch on 820 East Estates Boulevard over in Councilmember Waring's district?
It's a single family residential. It's gonna be contiguous by the East Estates Boulevard itself, as well as the house behind it on Trent Street. And pretty simple, nothing too exciting with this one, but exciting for us.
Absolutely. One by one. Good deal. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. And now we go into an executive session regarding the Barbary Woods project. Do we have a motion that contains the magic FOIA incantation to properly move us into executive session to receive legal advice?
So move.
All right, I got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it. Now, are we already in executive session, or do we need to click a button for those of us on Zoom, or?
Looks like we're still live on YouTube, just as a cautionary note.
Yes. Thank you, Stormwater. Matt's on top of it, man. He's a detailed guy.
I know, it says meeting in the executive session.
Absolutely. That's why you measure twice, cut once. That's right. Tell you what, we really picked up speed in the back half of that agenda there. We're moving along.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to leave here in about 10 minutes to make Ways and Means, so.
Yeah, same with me. I probably got maybe 10 minutes before I need to hop on the road here as well.
If you had an office downtown Charleston, you don't have to worry about those sort of issues.
We had one for years, but it's that well, that's maybe for another committee meeting.
Madam Clerk, are we in the executive session room?
Who is
Bear with us for just 1 second. We're gonna put you in a breakout room. We just need a minute.
Okay.
Sounds good. Councilman Shade, if I have to bail, do you mind assuming the mantle?
I told you what my price